What's up? So I got to ask the St. Louis Cardinals of 2006 versus Chicago Cubs of 2016. Who was better? Who would win? This is interesting because you know the rivalry of the Cardinals and the Cubs. Now, the only time the Cardinals and the Cubs were like really friendly was when if you go in the late 90s with Sosa and McGuire with the home run derby. But they always had a battle in the beef. This was really something. But the Cardinals team of '06 was 83 and 78. Had one of the lowest percentage teams to ever win a World Series, 516. Tony Russo did win it, uh, but they were very low. They had to have some help. They started off good, but then they slumped. They had to edge out Houston for the last wild card, but once they got in, they beat the Padres and they beat the Mets, which was a 7 game series. No one saw the Cardinals going all the way. And then they ended up being Detroit Tigers in the World Series, which was a more of a surprise. And also, the first time these two teams would play off in the World Series since 1967. Donnie McClain, Bob Gibson. Talk about a lot of interesting ironies. The Cardinals they went from the previous year where they got swept by Boston to the next year where they won it all. They had skipped I want to say it was when they won it. I think the White Sox had done in '05. But the thing about it is when they lost that World Series to Boston had came back against the Yankees. So it was talk about baseball is the strangest sport there is because very seldom do you have a Cinderella underdog team that goes and wins it all. Usually your record means everything in other sports. But in baseball, if you get in, hey, you could get hot. And they got hot at the right time. So this was one of the most strangest success stories, but it worked. So that's how I remember it. And it was crazy that they came back, but they came back and won it all that year. So that was an interesting contrast of when I point these things out. Whereas if I fast forward 10 years later, the Chicago Cubs won 103 games, 103, 58, and one tie. They beat the Giants and the Dodgers in the playoffs, and they had to come from behind from 3-1 to come back and beat Cleveland, who had to beat a Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Because if you're a Cleveland baseball fan, you have to think how many more ways can we lose World Series? Find more ways to just lose. And with all that talent they had, this was the first one I think that the Cubs won 2 road games on the road since the Pirates did against the Baltimore in '79. So the thing about baseball, these odds, and they had broken the curse too. The Cubs did. So um, it's just amazing when you think about it. But that question comes up to me: who would have been the better team? Well, if I go by the records, it's the Cubs. But if I go by the heart and the soul, it's the Cardinals. You know. And the thing about baseball, it's hard to compare because not only eras and styles, but things like this in baseball, it's usually the team that gets hot at the right time. That's the one sport. I mean, the NFL's had some wild card, six place teams, basketball once in a blue, but it's not the norm. But baseball, that is the unexpected. Also in baseball, you get guys who you don't think can be the MVP. So this is quite a compelling situation here. But if I had to be a betting person, I'd have to say that if I was betting, I'd say that that Cardinals team overachieved, but they would have been a handful. But that Cubs team was something else, though. I don't know if anybody's going to beat that Cubs team, though. That was one of the best teams I've seen. So it's a good debate, though. But let me know what you think. St. Louis Cardinals of '06 versus Chicago Cubs of 2016. Who would win? We're remembering these two teams. One from '06 now, which is 20 years ago, and the other from 10. So which one do you think would have been the World Series champion? Those two teams that have faced each other. Please hit like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands, keep your mind clear, watch out for another. Share if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. And that have been Tony La Russo and Joe Madden, who are two of the best managers to ever manage. All right, I'm out one time. Peace.